Welcome to Binging the Force, a Star Wars rewatch podcast with the Rocky Mountain Fan Force. Tonight's episode, Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 2, Episode 12, The Mandalore Plot. Oh, the things we learned on Clone Wars that we never knew we needed to know. Things like Anakin had a Padawan. And back in January 2010, when this episode first aired, we learned Obi-Wan might have a girlfriend. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce our great round table of hosts and fellow Star Wars fans. With us tonight, we've got Cory.
Actually, since people can hear us in a podcast and an audio, maybe actually say something.
Cory and Grogu, maybe one of them is audible. We'll see.
Yeah. Cory is coming to us from California.
Yes. Greetings, fellow Star Wars intellectuals.
All right. We've got Michael tonight.
Hello. Yep. I was listening to last week's episode and Kim didn't say anything, and I was listening to it in audio and I'm like, okay, that's not compelling.
That's fun.
It's all good.
Great for audio.
We're just doing our best.
All right. That voice you hear is Jonathan.
Oh, hello. Yes, I am Jonathan. That's me. And Dale, I see that you have as your subname, not Death Watch. Are you frequently confused as being Death Watch?
Well, you can only put so many characters in your little subtitle. So I wanted to put in a thing like, how much death could a Death Watch if a Death Watch could watch death? But that wouldn't fit. So since that wasn't
glad you got to say it.
Just not Death Watch.
Let's not forget James.
And finally, we've got James.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Awesome. All right. So Mandalorian, that word is super common nowadays. It was the first Star Wars series on Disney Plus, most popular. Everyone knows, even non-Star Wars fans now are familiar with this word, the Mandalorian. But that hasn't always been the case. Cory, think back in your Star Wars fandom. When is the first time you ever heard that phrase, Mandalore or the Mandalorian? And what the heck was it?
I can tell you, we were just actually talking about this. Okay, so Dark Horse released The Old Republic, and it jumped around the Star Wars universe with different stories and like that, different characters. And for a while, it had a Mandalorian character, much like what we know of the Mandalorians, only in this time period, Mandalore was populated by the Mandalorians of the warrior culture, not Celine, the warrior culture. They're like, how the armor keeps saying, we're going back to the old ways. All right. When I read that in the comic, we didn't have any of this. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, all right. But now I see that coming full circle, and I love what I'm seeing. So yes, that was the first time, and that was like, I don't know, like maybe before 2010. So it's been a while. Dark Horse had that comic book out. So that's when I first heard about it.
Okay. Michael, do you remember a different point where that became part of the vernacular of Star Wars fan?
I don't, because I'm trying to remember. I mean, was Boba Fett ever referred to as a Mandalorian during the two movies, during Empire or during Return of the Jedi?
I don't think so.
I don't think he was. Was it said during the animated? I don't think. Did he even have a name during the animated? I don't think.
Well, yeah, I mean,
It's talking about the holiday special.
The holiday special, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I don't
Yeah,
think
so I honestly don't know. When I might have heard it, it might have been episode 2 with Jango Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, isn't it Kaminoans that say, oh yeah, he's a Mandalorian named Jango Fett.
Yeah.
James, Jonathan, any other origin for that name that you can think of? What was it, a Fett?
Yeah, I think Boba Fett, and just reading like the books and stuff that came out after the movies, they finally tell you like at least where the armor's from, right? What culture it comes from. So that was kind of my reference point.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize this is going to be a pop quiz tonight. I apologize if I give my answers incorrect on the Scantron, but I could have sworn that in the Empire Strikes Back novelization, didn't they have that term in there?
That's entirely possible.
Quite possible, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that would have been like 80, 81, right? After that movie came out. So I will rely upon anybody listening to go online, to look it up, see if that's true, and then go online and prove me wrong. So
I don't think it was a pass or fail kind of situation. I mean, and coming from the guy who asked us last week, who in our personal lives would be our ride or die in fiction and in real life, I think it's okay. So
yeah, but definitely with Clone Wars and with Dark Horse Comics, that was when Mandalorian became popularized and started talking about. At first, Boba Fett is a Mandalorian, right? And then the conversation started after episode 2, like, what does Mandalorian even mean?
Does it exist? Is it still around?
Is it like frame of mind? So yeah. I appreciate how we dived into it.
I feel like that's something that's still not even explained all that well, even with all the screen time in the Mandalorian series. It's just, okay, this entire culture, like they're all just bounty hunters. They're all outlaws. Like
no.
Maybe what if a Mandalorian wants to be a chef? I mean, bus driver. I mean, certainly those roles are
needed. Steaks pretty quick.
I got the impression that being a bounty hunter was an option. Like we're not a culture of bounty hunters. They are warriors, and I guess that coincided with being a bounty hunter. It's certainly a helpful skill, right?
Well, but bounty hunting would be almost contradictory to their culture in a way, right? Like as far as the honor and stuff.
Honor about them.
Killing for money, basically, and I don't know. That's an interesting kind of dynamic.
I mean, it does seem like it's a complementary thing for their skill set, that it maybe just was just being bounty hunters just lent itself to their skill set in terms of a way to earn a living.
Yeah, it's the only way to survive or something like that because they have other skills.
I sense with the new series, I sense that there's an honor amongst them that with Boba Fett you don't really feel, because he's just a one of a kind. And I'm going to really date myself. Remember, he was just some character that was kind of passing by in the series and then became immensely popular, through no fault of his own, and then decided to make an entire, expansion of his race around him. I mean, that's pretty epic.
Yeah, and it feels like Mandalorian is more than just armor, right? It's like it's a way of living. It's a lifestyle. It's a belief system. It really is religion. The way that they talk about it in The Mandalorian, they talk about it like a cult for this specific group and their specific set of beliefs. And and in this Clone Wars episode that we're going to be watching here tonight, like you see those competing religious beliefs when it comes to what their culture should be like. And I mean, that really causes some struggle and some conflict in how they perceive themselves. So, and that's just really hits really close to home for just humanity too, right? Like, you have different people of different religions and they argue about what is right. And it's like, you as a society, hopefully if you can't agree what's right, hopefully you can at least agree to get along. And I feel like Mandalore, they've never really been able to get along.
Right.
Kind of the Mandalorian society kind of reminds me of like Athens and Sparta. Remember, they were very different.
Right.
Kind of the Spartans were very much, everything was revolved around becoming warriors and stuff. And the Athens was more of a democracy and culture, etc. Yeah, but they could fight, sure, for sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, I guess the Mandalorian parents, they're not only raising their offspring to be bounty hunters, though they're certainly not pushing them into public transit either. So as we'll see in this episode's very dialogue heavy. A lot of it goes over my head. So hopefully between the 5 of us here tonight, we can kind of figure out some of these confusing bits of the warriors and the pacifist and how they get along on the planet of Mandalore. So,
and we should say that this is the first of a 3-part story. So we will cover all 3 parts of it, but this is basically the first exposure to the planet Mandalore that we received in the saga, essentially, right? Is this episode of Clone Wars really gives us the actual planet, and it's very different than we would have expected.
At the height of its civilization is what you're seeing.
Yeah, well, and the fact that, I mean, of everything that we knew about Mandalore before this episode, to find out that Mandalore is not a planet of people in armor, and it's got a leader who's a pacifist.
Yep.
Right. No, totally. Yeah, it's a complete 180 from what you, or at least what I know of Mandalore to be original.
Yeah, it's not what you expected, right? I mean, you didn't expect Mandalore and Mandalorians to be pacifists, and that's good storytelling. Like you said, it's the 180 from what you expect. Yeah. What is this? How do we get here? Where is it going? Yeah, very cool.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Let's watch this episode.
Great.
All right, here we go. Logo dissolves, and
so here's our fortune cookie.
They
love to do those in these Clone Wars episodes.
Yes, if you ignore the past, you jeopardize the future. So think on that. And with our narration here, Jonathan,
diplomacy or deception.
Yeah.
The Council of Neutral Systems speaks for over 1,500 worlds who want to stay out of the war. But rumors have reached the Republic Senate suggesting that the Council's new leader, Duchess Satine of Mandalore, is secretly building her own army to fight for the Separatist cause. Now, Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi has been sent to Mandalore to discover the truth behind these claims.
Thank you, newsreader.
All right. So, yes, the Tom Kane narration, very smooth.
Right.
And I love this look of Obi-Wan when he's in his armor. That's so cool.
Yeah, his stormtrooper armor from the Clone Wars. Yep.
Yeah, it is cool. We don't see that in the later movies when the Jedi are around. That would be kind of cool if they did.
Yep. I always loved that outfit for him. I always loved this look of Obi-Wan as General Obi-Wan during the Clone Wars.
Who's that painting of? I guess that's her. She's got a stained glass window of herself.
That's Picasso-esque painting of Sabine there.
Very nice. I wish I should. If I turn my camera a little bit, you can see one of me hanging on my wall.
Yeah, with the nose over here and.
So who remind me who this dude is? Is this?
He's like their prime minister of the city.
Yeah.
Kind of character.
Or maybe her aide, or.
I want to say he's prime minister.
Yeah, he's the
prime minister Olmec. Yep.
Prime minister.
That would make sense. He's kind of talking about diplomacy and stuff.
So remind us again when this takes place in the Star Wars timeline.
Right. He likes to bring up Jango Fett here because he just met him in episode 2.
Right.
So this is 21 years before Battle of Yavin. So.
And then Almec makes a point of pointing out that Jango Fett was not a Mandalorian. He was just someone with armor.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah,
that's his opinion.
Yeah, good point. He might be full of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're introduced to the Duchess here.
Yeah, her headdress is kind of reminiscent of Padme from episode 1 a little bit there.
Yep. Based on a concept for Padme.
I wonder if it's another elected queen, basically.
Yeah.
They do seem to have a ruling family, though, right? So
they actually, it is a ruling family.
It is by clan, so it's by her clan that she's the ruler of the planet.
Correct. And maybe her clan won that claim from the Darksaber. I haven't really touched on that so much. So that's why her bloodline is in fact in the royalty. I don't know.
The Kryze family.
Kryze family, right?
And the structure of Clone Wars episodes is very different than the Mandalorian episodes. So like Mandalorian, I think is oriented more on there's action, there's that connection with Grogu, more movie style storytelling, and I feel like in Clone Wars the storytelling was more politics, longer term,
a lot of
in-depth, complicated.
Well, I think it depended on the episodes because there were some more battle episodes during the war. So
more
was a war between. I mean, as we saw in episode 2 and 3, it was between the Separatists and between the Republic. So there is definitely diplomacy. There are planets involved. In this case, I guess it's that Mandalore was basically trying to stay neutral.
Yes,
you know,
one of the neutral. Yeah.
Oh, but what season is this of Clone Wars? Is this 4?
Season 2.
Season 2.
Episode
Oh, season
12.
2. Okay.
Yeah, so we're in basically the second year of the war,
or less.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is the first time we've seen Mandalore look like this with the weird like cubism. Cory, can you talk about cubism for a sec? Like what's up with this design? What do you think about that?
I think it was just a way to create more dimension within, say, a design orientation, as opposed to, sure, a 3D look that was very evident being a 3D look. You can use light and shadow to make something look third dimensional, but that literally a cube, you don't get more dimensional than a cube, in my opinion. But it's just it's a design.
And so we get our first introduction of Death Watch here, and we find that there's this other group of Mandalorians that are wearing armor that are calling themselves Death Watch, that they're basically a separatist group within Mandalore, and they're actually meeting with Count Dooku here, the head of the separatists, or the leader, basically the general of the separatists.
They have a very different vision for Mandalore, obviously.
Yeah,
because they're meeting with Count Dooku, does that imply that they're the bad guys? We're supposed to think they're the bad guys to start?
Essentially, that's if we're going just by alliances there. If you're allied with the separatists, you're allied with Dooku. That's definitely the suggestion.
In retrospect, now I would say I feel like Death Watch was the first effort to bring the old ways back to Mandalore.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of what they're showing, is that they're essentially like a terrorist organization within the Mandalorian.
The way they're acting, yes.
Basically, the main rulers of Mandalore are the British, and the Death Watch is the Irish, essentially.
Well, and she labels them as hooligans. It makes me think of like rowdy soccer fans.
Yeah,
hooligans.
Well, I didn't think it was absurd for them to want to go back to a culture that Mandalore was known throughout the universe for, but yeah, their tactics suck.
Well, and that symbol, the symbol there of Death Watch, that is the symbol that was on the arms of the Mandalorians that we saw last week, rescued Din Djarin.
Oh,
is that why we're watching this episode? I wonder why we didn't start at season 1, episode 1 of Clone Wars.
Yes, we that is the intention. Is we're watching episodes that help us inform our watching of the Mandalorian show.
Nice little Easter egg you pointed out there, Michael.
Yeah, that logo, that holographic logo, that's really good product placement, good advertisement for their club.
It looks bad for this guy.
Speaking of logo placement advertisement, buy our stuff on myspreadshop.com.
Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber action. Gotta love Jedi lightsaber action.
Yeah.
Don't jump. Don't do it.
What's he saying? I think he said Hail Hydra.
What? Yeah.
Well, it did say Concordian dialect, so that refers to that planet Concordia, where we know that's where Din Djarin is from. So, and it said he was speaking Concordian dialect.
Plus, it makes sense. Dave Filoni was the showrunner for Clone Wars, also showrunner for Mandalorian.
Yeah, definitely influenced.
Knows what's up.
Well, yeah, essentially, I mean, all of the modern Star Wars shows are, all the Disney Plus Star Wars shows are all being overseen by the person who did create the Clone Wars, who did create, a lot of these characters, and that's why we're starting to see Clone Wars and Rebels characters start showing up in the Mandalorian and Ahsoka, and Book of Boba Fett. I mean, all these shows are all bringing back characters that Dave Filoni created in these two series.
The continuity can't help itself.
Yeah. There's definitely thought put into it.
Yeah, we are definitely living in Dave Filoni's Star Wars now.
Because Dave Filoni is us. That's why he's the spirit. He's the Holy Spirit of the Star Wars Trinity. I keep telling you. Starting that religion, I'm telling you.
Yeah. So I do like that we're getting this exposition about the people you see are not the warriors. Those warrior guys, we kicked them off. They're on the moon.
Right. Yeah. They're all on Concordia.
They've been ostracized.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like
I do love that design. I mean, I didn't realize. When I started rewatching these episodes, I didn't realize that was the Mandalorian ship design that we've now seen in the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Very thorough.
And we're kind of intimating here that there is definitely a relationship between Duchess Satine, the ruler of Mandalore, and Obi-Wan, they have a history. We don't
they
exactly know
they
what that
have
history is,
something
but there's
going
definitely
on.
a history there.
Yes, they have a little something going on there.
It's complicated.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the exchange that they just had after the guy died is he goes, "I didn't kill him," and she goes, "That's why I'm still talking to you."
Right. Yeah. Yep. We get an outfit change for Satine. No more macaroni earrings.
Now we meet the governor on this planet Concordia that Death Watch seemed to be coming from, and it's a man named Vizsla.
Right, and isn't
Sounds
this
familiar
one
from
of the
Mando.
Mandalorians and the Mandalore comment in the show?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Heavy artillery guy. He's pre-Vizsla.
But also this ruler, not ruler, this governor here of
yeah.
Concordia, Vizsla, is being voiced by Jon Favreau.
John Favreau, right?
I believe
Right. Really?
this is his first involvement officially in Star Wars.
Yep.
Him doing the voice of this in a show created by Dave Filoni was his first introduction to the Star Wars universe officially.
Was it this character, Michael, or was it the one who was the head of Death Watch?
Wait for it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Let the story
Yeah.
unfold.
No, that scene earlier when he was talking to Dooku. So that was the first. We heard Favreau talking, and then Cory Burton was playing Dooku in that scene.
Very nice. Like his little speeder. It's
Yeah,
pretty
taking
cool.
off his little speeder bike there.
It's like an animal, maybe.
No, I do love General Kenobi.
Yeah,
I
the
know
wings
that's
don't look very
something I am.
functional. They kind of go down. It's a design thing, I think. I think it look cool.
Yeah, that speeder should not work according to
It
physics.
should not fly, no. Of course, most spaceships.
Yeah, so
don't
okay,
fly.
so
It's
governor,
cool.
he's the governor of this moon, Vizsla.
Yeah, but in that scene, he's giving off major bad guy vibes, and Obi-Wan picks up on it.
Well,
Right.
just the design of his look is part of that.
Yes, I love this, that it takes them all of 30 seconds to find their hideout, the armor, everything.
It's only a 22-minute episode, Dale. Come on.
You got to move the story along quickly.
Right?
You win at the speed of plot, yeah.
Move along, move along.
I also like how this is reminiscent of episode 2. Like, you get Detective Kenobi, right?
Yep,
Just trying to find out the truth behind what's happening with these events.
Yeah,
What's
but
really happening.
in that scene with Satine, though, she was like, "Well, I'm opposed to this." What is she opposed to here? Is investigating? Is that violence? I don't know.
We got helmets, we got jetpacks.
That's Dale.
I mean, it's not like he brought a screwed of, clones with him to take over the planet or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting that he went all by himself, that he didn't bring
Jedi's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think didn't the council kind of order him to just check it out on his own?
Yeah. This is kind of the Jedi's approach. They kind of like to take the light, kind of, we're going to sneak around and find out what's
Reconnaissance.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Satine assumed that it was the Senate that was pressuring him to investigate, but it's the Jedi Council. So does that mean the Council is more threatened by the return of Mandalore than the rest of the universe?
Well, if they were to join with Dooku and the Separatists, then yes. They're formidable, man. I mean, I know you're not seeing it like this, but I'm pretty sure that given the chance and they become formidable again, they could be a real problem.
So here we're getting a little tete-a-tete between Vizsla and Satine, kind of talking about it's really this split, that's this schism that's happening in Mandalore between the main people on the planet, led by her, and kind of the kind of more separatist Death Watch kind of wing, led by him.
Here's our James Bond moment.
Yeah,
Always got to.
very, very reminiscent.
Although they move his pending killing pretty quickly, James Bond usually takes a lot longer.
Sure.
He's got to.
No, General Kenobi, I expect you to die.
Yeah. Those two lackeys were smart enough to take the lightsaber at least.
Yes, and then completely walk away and leave the Jedi unobserved.
Okay. Well, they don't know what Jedi can do.
Yes. Yeah, they wrote her character so smart, except she is just so obvious, like hiding her little earpiece. It's pretty funny.
Her earbud is hiding.
Nothing to hear here.
I'm not talking to anybody right now, Mr.
What's
General.
wrong with your ear? What's wrong with your
Maybe
ear?
this guy's kind of dumb too. I don't know.
Maybe she's Carol Burnett. Well, I'm just dating myself with that joke. Oh
Who's
yeah,
that Carol Burnett?
Well, she just misses her big macaroni earrings. That's all.
And she feels naked without them.
Yeah. These are only small avocados. They're just not the same.
She takes off on another speeder to go, I guess, because
gonna rescue her
they
boyfriend.
walked away from Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan like touched his wrist, which had a little tracker device. So of course they never checked him for that at all. They took away the lightsaber, but never checked him for any electronics at all.
I'm not gonna let her boyfriend die.
Doesn't she have like a guard or royal guards or something to?
Her
I mean,
Secret
he's the one who's
Service
supposed
is
to be
not
protecting her.
doing their job.
They're not doing
Not
that.
keeping
Doing a
a good
very
Well,
tab.
they don't know that she's out. She snuck out.
Oh, that's right. She's not
Maybe she's on a little escapade with Obi-Wan and nobody knows.
See,
about it.
terrible guards.
Oh,
Always a crusher, always a general crusher.
no. This is like a 60s Batman episode.
Yeah, they could just turn off the force field and like shoot him.
You know,
Not as
how being
dramatic.
so logical, Michael.
No. You must build the suspense.
Yeah, what would be the fun of just
Yeah.
shooting?
This
your
isn't a
enemy
mob
rather than-
movie where they just
It would.
dispatch of each other.
And
in
would
180.
Jedi really be so uncivilized?
Scott Evil in Austin Powers. I have a gun in my room.
Right now, in my room, I'll go get it. Let's go shoot him. Scott, you just don't get it.
Mandalorians, you just don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how he's like, oh, it certainly took you long enough.
And then he's like,
you
turn
know.
the machine off.
Oh,
10 seconds to get here.
Yeah. See, it sounds like when Obi-Wan is like yelling at Anakin in Attack of the Clones when he's took too long to pick out the speeder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, Obi-Wan.
Still
Nice
moving
knowing you.
towards the crusher.
I will say this Satine, she's got some moxie.
Oh, she's
Got
definitely
some
feisty.
spunk. She's
Well, she's still Mandalorian, you
sure could violet. Yeah,
know.
it's true.
Yeah.
Pacifist or not.
She's got spunk.
She will
And
fight.
I
with you.
hate spunk.
So does Satine have armor squirreled away somewhere?
Probably.
Not
It's
yet.
more decorative, but it can,
Maybe ceremonial for for the special
But it's-
occasions.
Yeah.
That's still gonna hurt your knuckles, though, right?
Maybe she has a
it's
secret.
gotta hurt your knuckles.
Yeah, I mean that is a question. I mean, are all of these Mandalorians that do have armor, is that armor Beskar?
I don't think
I don't
so.
know. I'm not very impressed with these Mandalorians. They're not very good. They're not very.
Yeah, I mean they definitely don't seem to have the same level of imperial,
yes.
or
I think they're just part of the ideology at this point. They're not.
yeah,
loyal.
it
they're-
doesn't seem to have the same level of resistance to
They don't
weaponry
want to be.
that we've
man.
seen Beskar armor to have.
So they
Obi-Wan,
got just actually makes it go all right.
what happened to
probably
you?
have
This
Stormtrooper
weapon
armor.
is your life, Obi-Wan.
Oh goodness.
I love how even when the Jedis lose their lightsaber, they have pretty good combat skills, regardless.
Well, yeah, they
They
still
can
have
improvise and
Oh yeah, man. Totally.
the lightsaber is a tool, but they are still the weapon.
yes,
Yeah.
they are.
They really are. It's
That's-
an extension.
That throwing a rock really takes a toll on Satine there.
Yeah, I know that would knock you out.
It was a
She was-
Beskar rock, right?
Got to be Stormtrooper.
Whatever it was, she was like, "What did I just do?"
Oh, loving that cape.
Yeah, so
Oh,
now we've got a clear leader to this group here. So who is the leader of this group?
Someone who doesn't tolerate failure, shoot his own people.
And and then they're carrying his lightsaber. And
Ba-ba-ba!
yep,
Let's see who it really is. Oh,
there's
Fire.
our reveal. But it's the governor. It is the governor, and it's his family that used to rule Mandalore, and he wants it back from her.
Yep.
and he's not worried about Obi-Wan having the lightsaber because he's happy to throw it back to him. But what does he have?
Oh, Darksaber.
The Darksaber.
So
I didn't remember this. I had watched this series so long ago that when it showed up in Mandalorian, the end of whatever that season was when Moff Gideon
we just watched
brought it out and cut himself out of the whatever.
Yep.
So
He mentioned that it had killed many Jedis previously.
Yep.
This particular blade has killed many Jedis before.
yeah.
And he's doing it well, like way different than the Mandalorian, who like struggles to pick it up and clumsily swing it around, right?
Even Bo-Katan can wield it really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now we established that Governor Vizsla is the head of Death Watch.
And isn't the blade cortosis?
Is what?
The blade, the metal of the blade is called cortosis, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that
Will block an actual lightsaber blade.
you got me.
Okay, no,
Well, he mentions that they stole it from the Jedi to begin with, but we never see the Jedi make a second one, so it must be just a rare mineral or they're like, we've got
it almost like has an energy source too, like the lightsabers with the kyber crystals, right?
Right. So it does have its own because it's still a lighted blade, just like a lightsaber.
Be interesting to find out the history behind that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure there
I
is.
think in Rebels, if I remember,
I was going to say, I believe we get into that in
Rebels.
Rebels. Yeah.
It must make you go a little crazy though, because when we saw last week on the Mandalorian, Moff Gideon, he's the first person we see in live action wield the thing, and he shoots his own guys. Previously is the same thing. I'll just shoot my own guys.
Well, you don't get this job hoping for Gold Watch or retirement, you know?
They're just tools.
So we've established who our bad guys are. We've established what the threat is, that there's a separate group.
And established motive, right? They think they should be in charge, and they're trying to get rid of Satine.
Yeah. They basically want to get rid of Satine. They want to take over Mandalore, and they're willing to ally themselves with the Separatists to do it.
Yeah. This employee of Satine's here, Tal Merrick, he's played by Greg Proops, but he barely has any dialogue in this episode. He does come back next week, but for this one, it's like, all right.
Greg Proops, he does Whose Line Is It Anyway, right?
Yep.
And his episode 1 is
Pod
Announcer.
Or yes, Foden Mead. Yep.
But we established here that Satine is still not willing to join the Republic, even though this other group is allied with the Separatists. She's not going to take sides. She wants to remain neutral no matter what. And then we finally get Anakin here, and there's definitely some clear. He can definitely tell there's something going on between Obi-Wan and Satine, but he doesn't know yet either.
Yeah.
Nod, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Well, he's kind of accepting.
I believe they're heading to the Republic, right? So they're heading to the Republic to kind of have some sort of conversation with the Republic.
Yes.
Yep. So I think they're heading to Coruscant, but they get Anakin and Rex and Cody there at the very last moment to do absolutely nothing.
Right.
But to lead us into
to be continued
more
week.
story. Exactly.
So this episode just flies by. I mean, it's totally different, like
Really moves
pacing
along,
and definitely length of time compared to the Mandalorian episodes, right? Like the Clone Wars really were compared to movies, compared to Mandalorian episodes. I mean, they're snacks compared to some of the full meals we had been previously getting when it comes to Star Wars.
Well, they were doing how many episodes per season? Like
20-ish?
With this,
Yeah.
20
Clone Wars?
plus.
22.
20-ish? 22, yeah.
Yeah.
so they had a lot more time to tell a story.
Yeah.
It was
a
a
nice-
different structure, right?
Side road.
And this is a 3-part episode that we're in here.
Yeah.
And they did do a lot of 2-parters and 3-parters, and they did a lot of ongoing storylines that would go through the course of whole seasons and multiple storylines weaving through.
Well,
It's
I mean, go ahead, Jonathan. Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say it was a different way to consume Star Wars, because before we just had movies, and this was the first ongoing serialized Star Wars show, which is good, but it's like requires you to get into that mindset as a fan in 2008, right, when this show first started coming out.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Clone Wars was the first movie to come out after the live action. Is that right?
We
After
don't
like
speak of the movie.
Revenge of the Sith and stuff? Was it the first one?
Yeah.
And then, of course, they did the series too.
Movie.
Right. So that was just a deal where Lucas wanted to be like, hey, this is a big thing, this new series we're doing. So they basically just took 4 episodes,
like a mini series kind of,
tied them together, and put it in theaters. It was not successful in the theaters, and honestly, it wasn't a great preview of the series. But
it introduced Ahsoka.
That's true.
Yeah, I loved it.
It did.
Yes, and episodes like this were the first time that we saw on screen a Star Wars story really kind of trying to fill in those blanks, like the way they were expanding what is Mandalore. That's things that they didn't tackle that on droids or Ewoks or anything like that. So
that's because they were for 5-year-olds, Dale.
This is not for 5-year-olds.
Continuity was not the focus of those shows.
Well, and I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when they come back to Mandalore in Clone Wars, we also get a sense of how they decide who's the leader of Mandalore. There's a little bit of that going on. I won't say any more than that, but it's like they certainly have done some nice flybys on Mandalorian culture. Kind of, not that they ever knew that they were going to do the Mandalorian TV series. Coming out, but man, it all fits together so nicely.
Well, clearly Dave Filoni had an intention to really delve into the mythology there and kind of really build out.
Yeah, whether he's going to be able to do it or not, that remains to be seen. But now he has, and that's why he's the spirit.
Yeah, well, that's what's interesting. They've done a really good job of. It's been a really consistent story, and it all fits together really well. You can tell there's just a couple people trying to tell one story. It's not, kind of the jumbled mess with like the last. 3 movies, that were kind of just all over the place.
Yeah. Or to kick it back even farther, Cory, you probably remember this, like the old Marvel comics, right? Like trying to, maybe like one kind of, editor for the Star Wars comics for quite a while. But when you have lots of storytellers and you have them trying to figure out, well, what is kind of the Boba Fett warrior culture? And then it's a Dark Horse, like trying to get a handle on it. It's like so many people had so many different ideas of what it was going to be that who even knew, like, who is this dude that's pretending to be Boba Fett? What's happening here? So it was definitely, like you said, jumbled mess. And then I think with this show, they started to try to get a handle on it and just have one consistent story of who the Mandalorians are. This is it going forward. We're going to ignore everything before. Promise you, this is the last time we're rebooting Mandalorian culture. And we're going to be consistent going forward.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a reboot at all, actually. And you had mentioned at the opening of the episode about, why was this huge change? And until they ever actually delved into that, we in our own history on this planet, we've certainly had, government's rise and fall, and one being more pacifist than the last one. And that's why they became pacifists, because the rule before that was so, oppressive that they needed something new, a new hope.
Yeah.
But that's what I wonder happened here with what, again, I saw in Old Republic, the comic book, and then we're seeing with the height of civilization on Mandalore with Satine and their society. Very.
And this is gonna not do them well, right? When the Empire comes in and just blasters them, they're not gonna be ready, kind of psychologically, to be ready to go to war. So that's interesting to watch. Kind of why did that happen? Why didn't the Mandalorians just really give the Empire a run for their money?
That's separatist talk, James.
I think it's pretty smart on the part of Filoni to realize that there is an interest in the Mandalorian story. While this thing could focus on just what's happening in the prequel era of Clone Wars, trying to tell the story of what is a Mandalorian, and not just trying to tell that through the eyes of Boba Fett or some history about Jango Fett. But hey, it's still this culture of people, and they're still really active in this time period in Star Wars. It's a great idea.
I like that they've really gone in and just given it a lot of density and a lot of detail, a lot of thought into the political way people think about politics and the way they, their philosophies on government and stuff like that. I think that's kind of what Dave Filoni has really given us, which has been really neat.
So
I'm trying to see what happens next episode.
So before we kind of wrap this up, and we should probably start getting that direction, there's one thing I can't let go, and I have to address before we move forward. Jon Favreau's character here, Pre Vizsla, that character name is not incidental, and it's very much an in joke for people who, if you don't know anything about movies or movie making or anything like that, and you just watch movies. So that is a complete joke for film people. For anyone who's watched behind the scenes stuff, you know that especially these days, whenever you do a movie or TV show, especially when you do action sequences, they always figure them out first, and they figure them out first usually with like animated sequences that are either like hand drawn. They used to do it more hand drawn. Now it'll be like kind of just line drawings of animation, that kind of thing. And what that's called is pre-visualization. So whenever you do an entire sequence, it used to be done in storyboards, and now it's usually either animated sequences of just line art or that kind of thing, or just full animated sequences. The word for that is pre-visualization. So Pre-Vizsla, and it's just funny because that name has now carried on to being an entire main clan in the storyline of Star Wars of Vizsla, but it all started out with just a joke of Pre-Vizsla being a pun on previous. So I had to address that.
Another fantastic Easter egg brought to us by Michael Newman.
Very cool. This episode was written by Melinda Shu and directed by Kyle Dunleavy, who actually, I had to add it up. He directed 22 out of the 120 some episodes. So a pretty good chunk of the series was directed by him. He directed some of the best episodes, Orders, To Catch a Jedi, but then also like some of the stinkers, like Sunny Day in the Void. I don't know when we'll have time to get to that one, but he's kind of all over. But this one, I thought this was a great episode. Did you guys like this one?
It was a good episode, yeah.
Definitely sets up a lot of good stuff and really gets us on a really meaty piece of story here.
Exactly. I think it helps to watch it multiple times and hear other people's interpretations, because the way that their systems work between the Death Watch and the Moon and Mandalore, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it is.
Taxation and trade routes. Yeah.
So you want to go ahead and take us out, Dale?
Yeah, you bet. So we will be back next week. We got more. Before that, let's plug some stuff. James, you want to plug some stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So Monday, if you can join us, we have an event tab up for Copper Kettle Brewing in Aurora. They're doing a Star Wars trivia night. I think about 4 of us are going to try to go, and that goes from 6 to 8. But you can see that in the event tab. Monthly get together. We're going to do something in April, probably either the 15th or the 29th. We're working out those details now. And of course, as you can see on the bottom, you could Binging the Force at myspreadshop.com, buy some merch. I actually just bought a t-shirt myself tonight.
Yeah. Michael's our display for tonight. It's quality. The print quality is good, Michael. You like it? Very cool.
Cool.
Right.
I think that's all I have.
All right, Cory, JT, anything else?
No, it's just been fantastic being with my fellow Star Wars intellectuals.
Thanks for joining us, Cory, as always.
So we'll be back next week with the rest of this story. Season 2, episodes 13 and 14, Voyage of Temptation, and by popular demand, the Duchess of Mandalore episode as well. So more Satine on the way.
Cool.
More Satine jokes. All right. See you, everyone.
Force be with you.
Bye, guys. Thanks for joining us.
All right.